In a world filled with monstrous dragons and beautiful maidens, our boy Rakuro was no simp and showed us all what a real man should act like.
The Dark Lord and go straight to hell where you belong!
He was excited to finish his VR game, and this was one of many he completed in recent weeks. Unlike other players, he excelled at finding and playing trash games no one bothers to look at twice. He was known as the Freak, or commonly called the Trash Game Hunter. After he was done kicking some NPC booty, he bid his mom farewell and headed off to school with the confidence of a winner. Meanwhile, a girl by the name Ray was mustering the courage to ask him out until she was interrupted by one of his friends. Talk about bad luck. Afterward, she went to the game store in search of Rakuro. The clerk, Mana, kept on teasing her and her hopeless love affair. She told her about the trashy game he was focusing on and hadn't stopped by in a while. Just then, our boy walked in and she vanished into thin air. While she tried eavesdropping from the back, he went on and on about the game and how the princess was actually diabolically cruel. After all her annoying crusade, he had enough and took his vengeance out on her. Now that we was done with that, she suggested the best game on the market, Shangri-la Frontier. He took it back home and saw a couple of reviews online. Over 30 million people vouched for it. And without further ado, he logged in and started choosing his character. There were plenty, and he went on to customizing his character. The details on this were insane, however. He chose something basic. That was disappointing. He went with the mask to hide his identity and decided to skip the intro. Bad move, buddy. This teleported him to the middle of the forest without a tutorial. Everything seemed so realistic, unlike the trashy games he was used to playing. The movement mechanics were insane, and the environment felt lifelike.
SLF, it certainly did not disappoint.
He opened up the map and decided to go east to the nearest town. His HP started off at 30, and while he was busy with his stats, a goblin attacked. But this was nothing for an experienced gamer.
Let's see what this bring it on!
He defeated it without a hitch and leveled up on the spot. Another hiding inside the bushes popped up. But this time, it was a destructive bunny. She sure seemed tough. Her speed was phenomenal, and her attack pattern was spontaneous.
You can't ya?
Defeating her helped him gain 2 XP and gained a new skill. This game is quite immersive. Our boy was off to a good start, hunting ogres and reaching level 12 already. That was fast. He even gained a new weapon. Now that he was done with the monsters in this part of the forest, he tried crossing the bridge and found a scary-looking python guarding it.
Now this should be interesting to watch.
Show me what you're really made of!
Elsewhere, a scary-looking knight showed up in town looking for our boy. Turns out it was Ray. How did she get so overpowered? Meanwhile, Rakuro was locked in a heated battle with the python and pulled out all his move to try and stand a chance. He kept on dodging his attacks since the moveset contained a pattern and it was prone to telegraphing its attack. After his dagger broke, he had to pull out his big guns. Unfortunately, he was struck with poison which decreased a single HP every 10 seconds. That doesn't bode well. He had to defeat him quick before he was spawned in the middle of nowhere. Using his electricity, he managed to inflict a wound and spammed the weak spot. This was going to be extremely difficult to defeat, but our boy didn't give in and gave it his all and made it through. A 2 XP boost, it was totally worth it. However, his HP was decreasing by the second, and our boy turned into prime Usain Bolt. As he was darting through town, a couple of NPCs showed him the place for the inn. He quickly checked in and jumped to bed, securing his respawn point. Phew, that was way too close. This guy almost gave me a heart attack. He went back in and started touring the town, but he looking weird, so he purchased some cloth and went to the weapons store. After browsing his selections, there was nothing good. The blacksmith suggested he get some material to help him craft something great. He kept on mining all day looking to scavenge some good stuff. Given his short temper, he decided to vent his frustration out on a poor toad. He went back to the blacksmith with some good stuff. These looked like they could kill a dragon. He then told him to bring more rare stuff if he wanted to raise the items. That's SLF lingo for upgrading weapons.
Enchant Hell Flames!
Later that night, he went out looking for monsters, while Rei slashed the python in one slice in search of the love of her life. Rakuro was busy dealing with a night goblin, who was more superior to his day counterpart. This guy was on a whole other level, even scarier than the rabbit.
This guy's a joke. Forest goblins. Ugh. This goblin fights like he's been doing it his whole life.
He even called on his friends and gave the lonely warrior a ride until they were destroyed by a vicious-looking wolf. Now this was Shangri-La Frontier providing a unique monster that has never been defeated and an awesome gaming experience. Meanwhile, our hopeless lover found the two NPCs who helped him and started questioning them about his whereabouts. She looked quite intimidating though, despite being an innocent little girl inside that armor. She gave them a gift and blasted away like a missile. The NPC started telling her about the 7 wicked monsters of the game, powerful creatures who have never been defeated in battle. There are several clans dedicated to the extermination of these monsters, but no one has succeeded till this day. Elsewhere, our boy was facing one of them, the unique monster, Lycagon, the ferocious wolf. However, our boy didn't know all of this. Rather, he simply assumed it was a tough boss battle. His speed allowed him to dodge most of his attacks for the time being. He leapt around trying to slowly dwindle his health bar, but no matter how hard he tried, nothing panned out. The wolf kept vanishing and attacking out of nowhere. This just went from hard to impossible real quick. Was it teleportation magic or invisibility? It was hard to tell, but one thing is for certain. Our boy stood his ground for over 5 minutes. Given his amateur level, this is truly epic.
What could be better than this? I'm having the garbage balance, absurd spawn rates. He is throwing in the towel!
Just then, the wolf gave a loud howl, decapitating his legs. What kind of attack was that? As he laid helpless, he vowed to get his vengeance one day, but the monster wasn't having it, and ended him in an instant. Our boy respawned with weird-looking burnt marks on his body. He found out they were curses since he lost. As he read the drawbacks, he felt depressed for a moment. First time in Shangri-La, and he is already lacking. He didn't want to give up though, and while distributing his stats and stressing about his low vitality and health, he found a random bunny and decided to check it out. He ran after it, but the rabbit was a nimble athlete. It opened a portal in the middle of nowhere, and he remembered reading about this scenario in the guidebook. As such, he didn't hesitate to go through it and unlock rare items from this unique finding. The place was crawling with bunnies everywhere, almost like it was their hometown. The bunny, Emul, welcomed him enthusiastically and admired his efforts for fighting one of the 7 calamities, Lycagon. It seems that they were all tuned in to his fights. She wasted no time taking her to the boss, and upon entering the dojo, he found a scary-looking bunny staring him down from across the room. Vaisash looking like one of those mob bosses, if you will. Back in the real world, Rei was trying to look for her soulmate, but was told that he was still playing Shangri-La. She seemed desperate to find him, and refused to give up until she did. Elsewhere, Rakuro was reading about the bunnies on the wiki list. It seemed that his scenario wasn't listed on any of the websites, and no one met the scary Don Rabbit who challenged him to a fight. He admired his efforts and wanted to train him before their fight though, seeing as how he was still weak. The Don looked hella intimidating at first, but soon enough, he opened up to him and accepted him as his disciple. He then instructed him to call him Vache, and appointed his daughter, Emul, to take care of him. Before he left, the Don forcibly put a health-dampening collar on him, cutting his HP in half to test his resolve and might. There was a silver lining to it though. Even though his HP was cut in half, his stats doubled while he was wearing it. It was time for his meeting, and he logged into Berserk Online Passion. They called it Burp. It was an extremely trashy game, but they loved the glitches and bugs. This game was meant for hackers, since they were able to manipulate their bodies and environment. After a few back and forth, Rakuro lost, and the two started chatting. Rakuro tried convincing him to play Shangri-La, since it was truly epic. Talk about a persuasive sales pitch. Meanwhile, a hottie by the name Towa was showing everyone why you shouldn't mess with veterans. She sure was scary. Later on, Raku went back to Shangri-La alongside Emul, where they decided to take a tour of the town. There were so many things to discover and they were both excited. They teamed up and became an official team. 2 random NPCs were in love with Emul and wanted to know more about it, but our boy ran off with it. However, they took a screenshot of him before he could escape. Afterward, a goat came rushing towards them until he sensed the curse mark and ran away. However, he was no match for the ruthless barbarian who slaughtered him on the spot. The two went for more monsters hoping to level up. They ended up at a muddy swamp where they were at a huge disadvantage, especially since Raku was a speedy fighter. This muddy shark was his worst nightmare. My guy was barely able to move while the shark was in the zone. Agility players all hate him for one reason: he dives in and rushes towards them with ferocity. Raku had no option but to block and slash his way through, but he already used his main skill moves and was left helpless until his helpful bunny friend used magic to thwart the shark. However, trying to get to the shark proved difficult. Even so, he landed a clean hit and started climbing the shark to strike his blind spot. Emil kept on blinding him using her magic, and together, they might have a chance. Suddenly, the shark vanished, and Raku threw Emil whilst he was flung to the air. The boss used this tactic to kill players by fall damage. This was its trump card, and Raku had no option here. As he was falling, he gave up hope until Emil used a teleportation magic to let him fall on the shark. What a genius strategy. He leveled up to 29 and the two duo finally did it. While heading back home, he regained his HP and started admiring Emil's bravery. Who knew this adorable munchkin was this powerful? In order to disguise herself, she transformed into a seductive-looking furry. Raku was left hopeless, upset about the whole harem situation. However, the transformation ability took a lot out our friendly little furry beast. They reached another town and tried heading into town, but the guards wouldn't let them in, and Emil went on a long rant about her made-up backstory. The guards were fed up and allowed them to go in. Some crazy-looking chick, Animalia, caught him, and it seemed the screenshot the two girls took went viral, and everyone wanted to know where he found the bunny. This caused everyone to get curious and found out about his curse. All of a sudden, he received a huge bounty on his head, and everyone gunned after him. Animalia refused to let go of him and demanded info on the bunny. Suddenly, they were attacked by his former rival, Amane, also known as Arthur. She was hella strong, and to make matters worse, she was a player killer. We are then shown a flashback of a trashy game called Unite the Rounds. A couple of soldiers pillaged some loot and were ambushed by Raku. It was a post-apocalyptic nightmare, where war was constant and everyone was ruthless since the drop rate was low and the only viable option was to steal from one another. Only high-level players survived in this game. And among them, Amani was the boss of the gang. Raku didn't care about this and confronted her about it. She was known as the dystopian princess and was unrivaled in this game. And here they are now, in Shangri-la. Who do you think is going to win? Matter of fact, Raku is at a disadvantage here, since it's been days since he joined. Also, she was known as the giant killer here, since she kept on murdering tough opponents. Raku seemed on the defensive, and whilst fighting, she tried interrogating him about the unique scenario he encountered. However, Raku wasn't spilling the beans just yet. Emil was starting to lose her transformation while Animalia was confused. Just then, her transformation vanished, and she went back to being an adorable little bunny. Raku used the distraction to land a hit and run away with his bunny. Animalia caught on and started attacking Arthur, hoping to gain his trust. Nevertheless, it wasn't over, since her comrades ganged up on him. Well, this isn't fair. He was at a major disadvantage here. Also, who knew Animalia was this powerful? Alas, her magic was swallowed up by Arthur, who used a special artifact. It was a very rare item and was single-use only. Meanwhile, Raku had his hands full until Rei stepped in to save him. She slashed one of them with a single strike, and everyone was afraid of the knight, calling it the Attack Master. Prior to the battle, she seemed depressed and was close to giving up. Her face blushed each time she thought about him and decided to give it one last shot. As you would have it, she received an email about his whereabouts and wasted no time getting there. I wonder how powerful she truly is, though. Well, running to the town was one sign of her might. The other was her damage capability. I suppose she's a top player in Shangri-la. Even Arthur was surprised, and unfortunately for her, Animalia got back up. We are then shown a flashback of Rei and her hopeless affection towards a boy who doesn't even know she exists. She trained judo and stalked him around like a creep. All the while, he was completely oblivious to her existence. Back in the game, she defended his honor and Animalia was ready to use her trump card. She sacrificed herself and used an attack to take both of them out. Raku used Rei as a trampoline to jump towards the gate and headed into town, while the Attack Master fell in love all over again. She slashed the fiends who tried attacking her lover, and Raku went back to the rabbit abode. Good thing he had a safe place. He then received an email from Arthur who wanted to meet. Another one of his friend asked him to go and check it out as well. Afterward, Emil took him to the battle arena in hopes of upgrading his skills. Our boy was ready for the gauntlet, and Emil released his first opponent, or should I say, opponents, a bunch of attack hounds who killed him instantly. Elsewhere, Ray kept on reminiscing about her encounter and was head over heels over the thought of having him as her friend. So, this is what love feels like? Meanwhile, Raku was ready for round 2, but their coordinated attacks was too much for him to handle. Luckily, he found the leader and went after it. Once he killed him, the rest were easy pickings. Sometimes it's about strategy, not just strength.
You're mine now! Bunch of aimless lone wolves! They're not scary at all!
The next combatant came out and looked hella scary. One by one, he started going through the gauntlet like it was a walk in the park. I'm more surprised that the battle arena had these many combatants. Shangri-La sure is advanced. Wait a minute, it even had cyborgs. Now how cool is that? Raku was super excited and he even leveled up to 31. After all that, he felt a bit wobbly, and the Don came to submit a challenge. For the final round, he threw in a chained monster he kept locked up and explained how this guy was nearly immortal. The challenge was to survive for 5 minutes. Raku thought it would be easy. But upon seeing his strikes, 5 minutes felt more like 5 hours.
Now I'm cooking! This will be a long 5 minutes!
This guy was an entirely different beast from anything he had faced so far. His moves were unpredictable, and his attacks were vicious. Even attacks didn't work on him, and Raku had no option but to continue dodging until he found a weak spot. 1 minute down so far, and everyone had high hopes for him. The chains looked like a huge nuisance. On top of the tree branches, there was no way Raku could make it. Even so, all the years playing trashy games finally paid off. He was able to anticipate the attacks and get into the monster's head. How was he able to do this, though? It required insane level of concentration. To make matters worse for our boy, the monster started spewing fireballs, as if the chains weren't enough. He even threw icicles and started combining everything in one huge storm. How many spells does he have? Lightning also. Now that's one superior mage. Raku was reaching his end's wit and was about to collapse until he started giving himself a quick pep talk. He started reminiscing about his previous battles and used this motivation to keep on moving forward. He came up with a plan to snatch the monster's staff and managed to pass the 3-minute mark so far. Fortunately, he outsmarted the monster and threw the staff away and caught it mid-air. This upset the monster even more, but at least he was unable to throw any fire or ice. 45 seconds left, and time was counting down until he got caught by his chains. 30 seconds left, he threw the staff distracting the monster, and with mere seconds left, he outsmarted him again. Had the monster attacked with his chains, he would have won, but the staff threw him off. Time was over and the monster kept on throwing fireballs. However, the Don interrupted and crushed his essence with one hit. Damn, how powerful was this rabbit boss? One shot is really all it took. He congratulated Raku for his outstanding achievement and promised him a reward, in the form of a title. He then unlocked his collar and sent him on his way. Poor Raku, he took off his VR headset and immediately fell asleep. Upon returning, he was studying the new quest given to him. But it was a level 80, and he was miles behind it. As such, he delayed this quest, and instead wanted to hide his cursed marks. Emil introduced him to his younger brother to help him out. However, he required some textile to get the job done, and Raku went out looking like a ghost. Afterward, they discussed where they should go next, and after a few discussion, Raku insisted on going to the forest. While he was talking, guess who showed up? Elsewhere, the leader of the Ashura Kai, the clan Arthur was in, was being scolded by their leader for failing to complete the mission. Even though Arthur was no pushover and defended her right. The leader insisted on getting it, but Arthur wanted them to go after the eunuch monsters. This created discord among them and caused Arthur to storm out, leaving the gang upset. It seemed that Arthur was resolved, and elsewhere, the attack master approached them, but caused Raku to run like a coward. He was caught by the bandits, and a huge search ensued. The bandits decided to ambush him at the gate. However, he was using this route as bait to trick them into thinking he's going there. What a genius strategy. I, for one, never saw that coming. He had finally lost them, but suddenly, the attack master found him and sent a friend request. Poor Ray. She felt shy and kept on stuttering. She sure felt flustered behind that scary armor. Raku accepted on the spot, giving her a huge smile. She suggested helping him, but he refused and left her pumped and ashamed. "Ray, you sneaky weasel, you finally did it." The bandits caught up with the attack master and turned tail, while Emil transformed back to her original form and went deep into the tunnel. They ended up inside a beautifully decorated forest filled with bright colors and enigmatic creatures. It looked so immersive and realistic that Raku couldn't believe his eyes. He wasted no time going after the creatures and started collecting loot already. Emil showed some support and advice, while Raku turned into a professional hunter. None of these creatures held a candle to him. Just then, he encountered a gigantic beetle bug who picked a fight against vampire bees. Raku tried commentating, as the beetle held his own against an empire of bees.
Ramping up! The quad beetle is using all of its way to beat the buzzer!
The beetle finally killed the queen and turned towards Raku looking for another fight. Must be one pissed boss. Raku used his loot to distract the beetle and used the cracks the bees made to land critical damages, killing it without breaking a sweat. Emil was not happy with his strategy, since she assumed he was cutting corners. But hey, all is fair in love and war. After finishing up with the rest, they decided to head on to the main boss. Meanwhile, some random NPCs decided to test out the boss and learned a painful lesson. Raku, on the other hand, was ready to go after the spider boss and was denied entry since other players were fighting it. However, they saw one of them crushed by a rock and the place opened up. This game sure is brutal. No place for compassion whatsoever. As they walked in, they heard weird sounds, and Raku insisted on going solo for this one. Emil stayed back as he leapt into battle. He dodged all the webs and studied the stats to get a better understanding. Just then, a rock was hurled at him. But this was too easy for Raku and his agility build. But Emil was left shocked. Using one of his skills, Raku managed not to get entangled by the webs. He kept on avoiding the rocks and came face to face with the spider monster. Using a single attack, he cut one of its limbs and kept on attacking the web to kill the spider using fall damage. It kept on cutting its webs, and finally, the spider fell but refused to die. However, Raku turned the tables and started cutting the webs and unleashing hordes of rocks, using its own strategy against it. Now that's a plan only a sicko could have made. Without further ado, he went to work once again and killed the spider once and for all without receiving any damage. That's our boy for you. Elsewhere, Ray couldn't help but break the wonderful news. As luck would have it, she saw him while walking through the street and started staring like a creep. However, our boy was too busy studying about Shangri-la to notice. In a brief flashback, we saw the trio meet up in a trashy game to discuss Shangri-la. Arthur, or as she is known in this game, Pencil Knight, proposed they go after one of the unique monsters, one of the 7 colossi, the Tomb Guard. Raku was reluctant since he saw one of them in action. Also, something smelt fishy since they were still newbies. But she told them she wanted skilled players, and they demanded to know the full truth. Meanwhile, Ray finally mustered the courage to speak with Raku, who kind of forgot her name. He tried acting cool and blurted out her name. She seemed much more confident than she was in Shangri-la. She tried talking about Shangri-la, but he received a text and ran away in a hurry. How unlucky could one girl get? I feel bad for Ray. Back at home, Raku logged in and met the adorable Emil, who seemed to be in an enthusiastic mood. After telling her he was picking a fight with Weatherman the Tomb Guard, she lost it and went off running. It is then revealed that once an NPC dies, it cannot return. After the Don heard about his plans, he decided to confront Raku about it. He wanted to give him a chance to explain himself, since Weatherman was considered an immortal, and he was even stronger than him. There was no way Raku could pull it off, but he tried explaining how this was a favor for one of his friends. It seems that some players found a glitch with this boss and used it to level up indefinitely. Aside of getting tons of experience for fighting him, they wanted to end this glitch and bring an end to Weatherman. They only had one shot at this, and he felt honor bound to give it a shot. As soon as he started talking about honor, the Don could relate and empathize with his cause. He started explaining Weatherman's story and how he lost his wife a while back. Afterwards, he received an undying body. After hearing all of this, the Don wished him good luck and brought him to his workshop. He called one of his daughters, Bilak, who was Emil's bigger sister. They then asked him to prepare, since the Don was about to show Raku some magic. He planned to ascend Raku's weapons. Shangri-la sure has a different way of saying upgrade. Raku gave him some rare items he found to infuse with the weapon, and the Don returned to his original past as a blacksmith. He hadn't wielded the hammer in years, making this an auspicious occasion for everyone. He used to be known as the Divine Craftsman back in the day, even though he's a rabbit. He went to work and gave it his all with every strike, infusing magical energy into the weapon. It was an art form to behold, and only a rare minority were bestowed this unique ability. The Don kept chanting his favorite song, and the whole vibe felt epic. Something straight out of legendary tales, if you ask me. Everyone stood in awe, and Raku for one was in disbelief, while Emul and Bilak were proud of their pops. After all the hard work, the sword was finally ready. He called it a twin moonblade. Unfortunately for Raku, he was too weak to wield it. He needed a total of 150 stats whilst he only had 57. Man, that sucks, after all the hard work the Don pulled off. Raku felt devastated and elsewhere. He met up with Arthur and Kay, who were busy stuffing their faces. Raku told them of Weatherman's background and why he was called the living corpse who outlived his time. It all started to make sense all of a sudden. Arthur told them to go level up in the meantime, and left them to go to the Iron Ruins. Emul blew her cover and looked adorable as always. Who doesn't love having a bunny as a companion? They arrived at the Iron Ruins and were ready to train. Prior to their training, we are shown a flashback of the meeting the trio had to discuss the upcoming battle against Weatherman. She informed them how there'll be a 150 level gap between them, and is the reason she chose highly skilled players such as themselves. Way to butter up the newbies, wouldn't you say? Afterwards, the duo went inside the Iron Ruins ready to level up as much as they could before the deadline. While inside, they both started teasing one another and cracking jokes like longtime buddies. After they were attacked by an unknown drone, they had to fight back, and Kay showed them all how it's done. Who knew brawlers could be this scary? However, Raku wasn't the least bit impressed, since he's seen better. They went looking for the destination, and Emul looked as adorable as always. They kept on walking endlessly in what seemed like a maze. Finally, they found a giant hole and kept on debating as to who should jump first. After a while, Ray decided to go for it, and Raku kept on scaring Emul. Poor rabbit. She certainly did not sign up for this. As they both jumped into the abyss, they slid down successfully and found a hidden lake inside an enormous cave. Without wasting any time, they went straight to business, which in this case was fishing. But hold your horses, because a gigantic sea serpent emerged ready to cause havoc. This serpent looks like it could put up a fight, unlike the first serpent Raku killed on the bridge. Thankfully, he had spare weapons made by Bilak, Emul's big sis. This got him all excited and started fantasizing about romance for some reason. Yeah, Raku is weird like that. But hey, his new swords gave him a neat ability called Spiral Edge. What more can our fellow adventurer ask for? Well, what if I told you the weapon has an additional ability called Corrode, which is similar to decay and disintegration in a way? I'd say he hit the jackpot with this. As the fight was ongoing, Emul was almost struck by the serpent. This caused the duo to unleash hell upon the serpent, ending its life and gaining enormous XP as a result. Ray even got a 4-level jump. Just then, Ray started talking about linking and combining skills when Raku felt completely confused. It seems that he skipped this vital information by skipping the intro of the game. That's what you get for acting all cocky and mighty. To think he could have been stronger if he tried. Later on, Arthur saw their progress and complimented their hard work. Raku started glaring at Ray to keep things a secret, and they all changed convo real quick. Arthur suggested meeting a unique NPC relating to Weatherman's mission. Elsewhere, a lonely spirit girl was singing inside a lush forest. It seems the trio were heading towards her, since they entered a bewitching environment where Arthur revealed a hidden passage. As they went deeper into the cave, Raku started picking a fight as usual until they finally reached the magical forest, filled with magical spider lilies. They soon heard a melodic tune coming from the woman, Setsuna of bygone days. Who was in charge of the name-making here? They deserve an award. Raku immediately figured out that this was a unique scenario they stumbled onto. After introducing themselves to her, they declared their victory against her husband, Weatherman. She smiled at their enthusiasm and started to reminisce about the good old days. Makes you wonder how old she is, huh? Afterwards, she sent them the challenge for the unique scenario, prompting the duo to start their auspicious journey. She started by stating that Weatherman was her lover, who refused to let go of her and insisted he stayed by her side till time stood still. Hence, why he was known was the Tomb Guard. Love after death. Now ain't that special? I wonder when I'll find someone as loyal. She then continued to explain how he made it impossible to enter here using his mana. However, on the night of the new moon, a crack is formed, allowing players to jump in. She then proceeded to beg them to end his suffering, and Arthur was all excited about the topic. And this coming from the masochistic Arthur they knew a while back? Talk about turning her life around. After beating some sense into them, she insisted they take things seriously from here on out, since this means a lot to her. It seems she went head over heels over an NPC character. Can't blame her. Love is blind after all. The duo agreed and kept squabbling like little children. However, they all agreed on one thing: feeding Weatherman together. Sounds like an impossible mission, if you ask me. Later on, Raku woke up from his slumber and started preparing for his day. He seemed to be lost in thought, though. I wonder if he has a hard time differentiating real life from the virtual world. His sis and mom came along ready for breakfast, while his sis was fantasizing about Toa, also known as Arthur, who apparently was a model. Raku tried downplaying her status, but his conversation was interrupted by their dad, who seemed to have captured a gigantic fish. Now that's a big haul. Afterward, our boy went back to his mission, training for the upcoming battle. He went to Berserk Online, the trash game he loved, and met a new player called Dragonfly. He asked him to spar, and the battle was underway. However, these two kept on using glitches and hacks to up their game. Talk about a buggy game. Anything goes here. Crowds showed up to watch these two battle. But this was more of a beating since Raku was a veteran at this game. Despite losing countless rounds, our newbie wasn't giving in that easily, and kept on learning new glitches to the game. Soon enough, he found his own bug and managed to damage Raku. As soon as Raku retaliated, Newbie was determined to end it once and for all, and used a new move to finally defeat the veteran boss. Everyone was confused about the move, and Raku for one was excited. He even gave the newbie the rights to the move and asked him to name it. As a gesture of gratitude, Raku decided to show him a move of his own by creating a doppelganger. He was in sync with his twin, and used to defeat the newbie with ease. Just imagine the arsenal of tricks he has in store. Raku isn't someone you want to mess with. Back in Shangri-la, Ray was still trying to level up while Raku came back through the rabbit's palace. Emil then suggested he go to the palace garden to level up. She led the way, looking adorable as always, and they both went to her big sis, Elka. How many sisters does Emil really have? Elke looked all innocent and cuddly, but you can never really trust these merchants, can you? Even Raku started speaking in a laid-back, chill manner. I'm guessing the speech pattern is contagious. He then started seeing through the list to see what was worthwhile. After combining a few skills, Elka demanded 6,000 mani as payment. Not sure if that's a lot, but Raku didn't hesitate upon paying. After a few seconds, Elka came back with a disgusting-looking ball and asked that he drink to gain the skills. Would you look at that? It actually worked. Afterwards, she showed him a list of special grimoires he could purchase, which aroused his interest, especially when he heard discount. Emil tried warning him, but she was held down by Elka, who showed Raku the prices. And, oh boy, 90,000. Now that sounds like a lot. He'd probably have to sell an arm and a leg to afford this. Even so, he decided to purchase the Vorpal Blade Tech. Sounds like a sophisticated way of turning him broke. After sulking for a few seconds, Raku got back up ready for their meeting. Emil opened a gate, and they headed to a low-key bar to meet with Arthur and Ray. It was revealed that the fight was in 2 weeks. However, since the Ashura Kai know of this secret, they could pose a threat to their plan. Since the clan doesn't want to defeat Weatherman, and instead want to leech off him to gain unlimited XP, this sure was a pickle, until of course, Arthur had a plan to dismantle their entire operation. She planned to create a cult to fight Ashura and eliminate them before the epic fight with Weatherman. Oh, I'm starting to like her. Elsewhere, we are shown a flashback of the lovebirds walking in their fabled Spider Lily's garden. We are then brought to the present, where Arthur bought every rare item within a shop. Damn, this chick is surely loaded. It seems everyone was excited about the new update that's about to drop today, with some characters going crazy. One particular fangirl couldn't contain her excitement, and sent a letter to Raku hoping to meet up. Soon after, she received a letter of her own from her sister demanding her presence. Something major is about to go down. Raku, on the other hand, seems pretty chill chatting with his little bunny friend. He received the letter in the form of a harassment, and upon reading it, was surprised by how formal it was. Just then, another letter came apologizing that she couldn't make it due to unforeseen circumstances. Now that all was said and done, the Don crept up and bid Raku good luck. This master sure is cool. Emil then handed him a necklace as a present. Must be a good luck charm or something. He was now finally ready. The city was buzzing with excitement, and the knights whispered a silent murmur. As the Ashura Kai grew nervous, the fabled attack master swept in like a devastating hurricane. Everyone gathered to put an end to the injustice Ashura has dealt throughout the years. They were greatly outnumbered and outmatched. They gave it their best, but alas, they had to retreat like cowards. Meanwhile, the gang went inside the lush garden ready to kick some ass. The leaders wanted to hide inside the garden, but realized they were screwed over. It was now finally time. They both gave the nod, and a portal opened up to another dimension. In the distance, Weatherman was seen sitting in reverence. As he picked his blade in preparation for the battle, Raku stepped forward to face his might. In an instant, they closed the gap and started lashing out their best attacks. At first glance, they both seemed equal. Raku kept up the pace, and everything seemed to go well. This guy was insane, actually putting up a fight inside a unique scenario.
Attacks, it's you!
Things changed real quick when he received a lethal blow. Luckily, he was revived on the spot. Prior to the start of the battle, Arthur had given each of them a resurrection item allowing them to come back with full health. No wonder she went on a shopping spree then. And they each cost 4 million. Damn, she must be loaded. They all had 4 at their disposal alongside other items. As such, as soon as Raku died, Ray was able to revive him whole and new. As Ray was trying to hold his own, Raku and Arthur were trying to come up with an impromptu plan quick. If this continued, they wouldn't even survive 5 minutes, let alone 10. Raku then went in for another round. However, Weatherman had a shocking surprise in the form of lightning strikes. Now this is what a real boss fight should look like. He even has the ability to send out a gigantic hand. He is starting to fight like Luffy all of a sudden. Who here wants to vote Weatherman for Pirate King? After being revived again, Ray wanted another round at him, but didn't last seconds. Raku and Ray kept on dying left and right. Finally, it was 10 minutes, and Weatherman stopped. It was now time for Phase 2. I wonder what he got in store for us. Wait a minute, did he just conjure a mechanic horse? This guy sure has a lot of tricks up his sleeves. Arthur warned them to keep the two separated, otherwise they will merge and deliver instant death attacks. Raku kept Weatherman busy, while Ray was trying to deal with the fearsome horse. Ray tried taming it like a cowboy, but was unable to hold it down. Meanwhile, Arthur planned on using her golden scales. Rumor has it, this item is considered as a legendary artifact which bestows the users incredible power. Arthur was willing to bet everything she had on this fight. 30 million money's worth. I wonder why she's so adamant. Either way, after unlocking the artifact's true power, all of their stats was boosted. Raku was pumped up more than ever, and decided to attack Weatherman head-on. After snatching his sword, he realized how heavy it was. However, without it, he couldn't unleash the lightning. Meanwhile, Ray came up with an excellent idea while Raku ruined the formation and placed Arthur in grave danger. After saving her from peril, he was killed on the spot, and Arthur had to step in to save him. Back to square one, I suppose. 50 seconds left, and Ray tied himself to the horse. What a genius tactic if you ask me. Phase 2 was finally over and Weatherman fell to his knees. Everything went silent all of a sudden. As his shells cracked, Arthur told them to brace themselves. She told them that his scream killed them all last time, but this round, she came prepared. She realized that Weatherman was an undead. As such, holy water would affect him. What do you know? Her plan actually worked. The holy water halted his scream, and they avoided an instant kill attack. However, after shedding his armor, Weatherman seemed pretty pissed. I'm guessing this is his last phase, since even the mechanical horse shifted gears and transformed into a horrific cyborg monster. This show keeps on throwing curveballs at these characters. What's not to like, honestly? Arthur informs Raku to hold out just for a bit more. However, this new phase wasn't going to be easy, since Weatherman was faster and stronger than ever before. Even so, our boy was so excited, he didn't even realize the buff Weatherman received and decided to go all out with his brand new weapon and gear. They both clashed with finesse, with Raku dodging blows and landing strikes of his own. Weatherman was actually on the defensive for once, even though he was considered to be invincible. After receiving critical strikes, Raku started laughing like a madman, with Ray and Arthur teasing his maniacal nature. Ray had his hands full and Arthur volunteered to help out. They tried double-teaming the cyborg, but their plan didn't go exactly as planned. As such, Arthur gave Ray some pills and told them it had several consequences. However, it would make his powers go through the roof. Without any hesitation, Ray swallowed one and started feeling dizzy. Arthur told him that his level would go down every 30 seconds. And that was the drawback she was trying to tell him. That's what you get for not listening to her, I suppose. Be that as it may, Ray's HP went to 140, and Arthur followed suit. Since it was the only way they'd win, Ray powered up and Arthur's HP shot to 400. Whoa, how is that even possible? Ray, frustrated, started going at it with Arthur behind him providing support. Even so, the cyborg wasn't about to let down that easily. I wonder what they're going to do now. Meanwhile, Raku is having the time of his life fighting one of the 7 Colossi. He started powering up to match his speed and strength, and avoiding all his attacks without breaking a sweat. Who would have thought Weatherman would be put in such a fragile situation? Suddenly, he stopped and started contemplating. He uttered the name Alice after seeing the necklace Emul gave Raku. I presume it reminded him of his former love. Well, this is bad news for Raku. Weatherman was now dedicated to win this battle, since things became personal. He unleashed his ultimate attack, Sky Clear Conquest, and started spamming every move possible. Lightning, followed with the Nimbus attack and wind slashes. There was no pause in between the attacks. Yet, Raku kept on avoiding them. He even threw a lava bird at him and turned the skies black to unleash an ash blizzard. What kind of game is this? Did the creators really make it unbeatable? However, to make matters worse, his leg got caught in a trap, and upon trying to parry it with his helmet, it broke, and he slashed right through his body. Well, this guy is impossible to beat. Meanwhile, Emul can't help but grow worried. She's too fluffy to be stressed out, though. It seems that Arthur and Ray found a way to defeat the cyborg. However, Raku was still struggling against the monster. Even so, he had a self-revive item which came in handy. After analyzing his strengths and weaknesses, Raku was ready for another round. But Weatherman grew faster with every move. He kept on spamming the same moves over and over until he eventually caught Raku lacking. Once again, he trapped him and ended his life with a Sky Clear attack. How many items does this man have? Wasn't he supposed to be a newbie? The worst part about all of this is feeling helpless and unable to fight back. I doubt this phase involves lasting 10 minutes. Since this was his final phase, you either had to wear him down or defeat him, and based on how well Weatherman is fighting, I don't see a chance for Raku. Ray and Arthur seem focused and dedicated as well. For some reason, Arthur killed herself, expecting Ray to revive her. Oh yeah, she wanted to heal her hand. After all, she is a spear wielder. With Ray holding the cyborg down, Arthur was given a free shot to land as much damage as she could. She took this opportunity to summon a legendary weapon. Using it, she was able to crack the cyborg's shield. However, this opened up a laser defense mechanism. Talk about bad luck. After imagining Raku's smug face, the duo had no choice but to face the tragedy head-on. Arthur had only 2 legendary spears left. As such, they had to utilize their opportunity to the fullest. She used one of it to hold the cyborg in place, and using the other, she was prepared to end the fight until a missile hit her, ripping her left arm. Even so, she launched an all-or-nothing attack, allowing Ray to deal the devastating blow. Would you look at that? They actually defeated the cyborg. Kudos to them, honestly. It must have taken everything they had. Raku, on the other hand, was getting sick and tired of dying. Even so, he seems to have fully studied his attacks and movement and seemed confident about winning. I wonder where he got this boost of morale from. Nothing seems to have changed, except him summoning a new weapon. With Weatherman ready to unleash his final attack, Raku dealt damage to himself to activate his luck stats, granting him an enormous boost. With this newfound power, he clashed blades with Weatherman, landing a critical strike and breaking his sword. Damn, would you look at that? He managed to achieve the impossible. He actually defeated one of the 7 Colossal. Now this is peak fiction, ladies and gentlemen.